We have a very special guest alert because on today's show, we are bringing on the one and only Shawne Lights Out Merriman onto the show. Again, a recurring guest to get into why he is so excited about Jim Harbaugh and why he thinks that this team and the culture they're building is similar to the most successful Chargers era that we've seen in our fandom.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Drogemeyer, and we've been covering the Chargers together now for 9 seasons, but this is our 7th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you to the everydayers for checking out today's show and making us your first listen. To make sure you never miss gigantic interviews like the one we have today, make sure you go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcasts from. We have a big one. So excited that we get to have Shawne back on the show. We had him one time in a very expedited kind of a thing where we got a great, story for how he got the name Lights Out from a high school hit that he put on someone, his mom, wafting through the cigarette smoke to go yell at him. I mean, we have great stuff today, including kind of the similarities between what Jim Harbaugh is trying to build and the Marty Schottenheimer days, when the Chargers were known as the team you didn't want to play on Sundays. Also, his thoughts on how giant Joe Alt is and why he loves Tarheeb Still, who came from his alma mater, Maryland, and so much more with Shawne Merriman. A super great interview today, but I do want to tell everyone that today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Here he is, Shawne Merriman. All right, guys, here he is, one of the most famous Chargers of all time, someone who needs no introduction, but I'll do it anyways because we have Shawne Lights Out Merriman on the show, who's a recurring guest now. We had him for a little bit last year, told us the great story about how he got the nickname Lights Out. But not only is he a 3-time Chargers All-Pro, but he's also the founder of Lights Out Extreme Fighting and the Lights Out Sports TV app. 2 things just getting gigantic right now. And if you guys don't know about it, make sure you're checking out Lights Out 18. I can't believe you're already at 18, bro. That's nuts. At the Thunder Studios in Long Beach on July 27th at 5 p.m. Pacific time, which is not only live on the Lights Out Sports app, but you can also get tickets at lightsoutxf.com. I'm going to be going to one of the ones coming up soon. I can't wait to get out there. But Shawne, thank you so much for the time today, man.
Appreciate it, man. Always good to come on.
Yeah, bro. I mean, you're a busy man. You got so much going on, but you have to start, with what really this offseason has been about for the Chargers, making a statement, one of the biggest in franchise history, honestly, bringing in Jim Harbaugh and showing their commitment to winning. You have, honestly, the biggest hire since Marty Schottenheimer, and maybe you could even say it's bigger. Marty was a big deal back in the day. Jim Harbaugh coming off a national championship. But you've been in the building since Jim Harbaugh took over. How excited are you for the direction that he's going to be taking this team in?
It's so I went down, I think it was about three or 4 weeks ago now. I went and shot a big opening. And by the way, this opening is going to happen before the first game of the year. You guys seen the Nike commercial I shot, right? Remember the Nike?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That hype feeling that make you want to get up and run through something.
Oh, yeah.
It's better. Like, it's when it comes to the hype of it. Dude, what they did down there with Jason and a digital team and a production team. I think the social media team for the Chargers are the best.
They're legends. Yeah.
But what they did with this was special. I read the script and I saw it and I was like, this is going to be really dope. I walked in, it was like a movie set type of thing. So I can't wait for everybody to see that. But this is what I noticed, man. I'm not a hype guy, right? Like, I'm not like, I know the media and everybody's gonna be like Jim Harbaugh and whatever. Sometimes people can go out and watch plays, watch numbers, drop passes, miss tackles, and all that stuff. I'll look on the sideline and see guys moving around and talking and see their body language. I'm that. I look really, really deep in depth and see how a team is built by looking at everything else. I walked in the building, man, and it was like this energy when you talk to everybody. It was like this array of confidence that I haven't seen maybe since I left, off of the teams that I played with. And I'm talking about everyone from the coordinators to the equipment guys, Chris and those guys who's been there since I was there. There's a different level of confidence in that building, man. And I feel like those guys are. I feel like they're moving with a purpose, right? Like you talk to them, everybody's locked in. They want to go work out. They want to go watch them. They go into it. It is a different feeling in that building. So I'm not coming out and saying, oh, screaming Super Bowl, screaming playoffs or anything like that. I just know this. They're probably gonna be the last team you want to come out and play this year because of the physicality and the mindset and what's being built in there. And I think that the Chargers fans in general, regardless of what happens, like record-wise, they're gonna be better. I know they're gonna be a better team, better record. I don't know how much better, but coming into this season, they got every bit of a reason to be excited for what's about to happen. And I've seen it firsthand. And I'm not saying that the hype of Jim Harbaugh and big name. I'm talking about just that looking in the eyes of those coordinators and those players that's in there, and that level of focus and that they have. I haven't seen that since I left playing with the teams I played for.
That's really good to hear, honestly. And it feels like Jim Harbaugh wants to build something in LA in the same mold as the teams, played under the late, great Marty Schottenheimer, the hard-nosed, the physical teams that play good defense and they want to batter you offensively with their running game. Do you see any similarities right now with the new culture and, what you guys had in the 2000s?
Yeah, and it's crazy because I never try to compare eras because everything's different, right? I mean, I played with the greatest running back, the top 3 greatest running backs ever, right? So that's not going to happen again. I played, with Jamal Williams, right? Those things, Lorenzo Neal, Nick Hardwick, those things aren't just going to happen again. But I think that where they are right now, you talk about Rashawn Slater, them bringing in Zion, like across the board, now having 2 capable running backs. Dude, Gus Edwards, I didn't know how, like, that dude looks for real. Like, he looks like he wants to run downhill and cause physical pain and punishment for 60 minutes. And so when you look at the nucleus and what they're building right now, I'm not trying to compare teams. I'm just saying it's the recipe to winning as we did, right, across the board. And so I'm more excited. I knew it was going to be a big deal when Jim Harbaugh came in. Them bringing in the running backs, Khalil and Joey Bosa coming back. I knew that it was going to be a change. Daryl and I obviously there and some guys there, but when I saw it, it really, really put me in a different mindset.
I love to hear that. I mean, and honestly, it's so hard to compare eras because it was so different. The rules were even different back when you were playing. At the same time, it does feel like Jim Harbaugh's trying to be that throwback coach where he's trying to turn the clock back a little bit and see if you can handle things the way they used to be when you were so good. But something cool that we have seen in the Jim Harbaugh era so far is bringing in former players like Navarro Bowman, your former teammate Nick Hardwick. What kind of benefits do you think the Chargers players can get out of having a coach that they know has actually been in their shoes before?
I posted this the other day on Twitter. And I don't know if you saw that. But Navarro is from PG County. We grew up not too far from each other. And so we had the very similar mentalities in the way we approach the game. To have him on that staff, have him coach you in the level of where he played is a luxury. That those guys, it's almost like getting your MBA and being a dog, right? Like it's one of those levels, man, where it's hard not to feed off of somebody not only that you knew was a great player, but someone who can coach the hell out of you. Because Navarro's game, if you go back and look what him and Patrick Willis was doing, how he was jumping gaps, reading coverages. I mean, he was smart as hell. And so he knows the game. And so very few times, sometimes you get guys that are great coaches that wasn't that great of a player. You got one of the best players. It should be in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. I'll let everybody talk about that. But you got somebody should be in the Hall of Fame, but also, too, the level and skills to coach, man, that just don't happen, man. And I hope, and it seems like they are, but I hope those guys are taking all that information and taking all that coaching in because it can only help you be a better player.
We have more great stuff to get into with Shawne Merriman, including his thoughts on a couple of rookies, Tarheeb Still, who he says is a dog, has a degree in dog, and also Joe Alt, who might seem nice on the outside, but when he gets on the field, might not be Mr. Nice Guy, and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First, I need to tell you guys about Gametime because Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. And the prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. And that's one of those things where, hey, you might just be there, have a night off, and you're looking back. Is it too late to go to the game? It's not. You're actually getting a better price more than likely with Gametime because the tickets get lower the closer it gets to the first pitch. And that's the other great thing about Gametime is you get the Gametime guarantee. I have found cheaper tickets very rarely, and when I do, I get 110% of the discount. When I actually have the same seat, same row, same section, you get the best price guaranteed with Gametime, and their last minute deals help you save up to 60% off of buying tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. That's the best price guaranteed, plus $20 off. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Yeah, no, it's got to be, comforting having somebody who's been out there and done it at the highest level be in that room with you. I'm sure it's really easy to kind of connect with someone like that. But I know, obviously, one of your favorite, Chargers draft picks was Tarheeb Steele, who obviously played at your alma mater in Maryland. You posted how much of a steal you thought that pick was. What do you like about that former Terp and his game?
He's tough, man. I always say back when he played, where the ball is, he is. Wherever that's on the field. If it bounces up one time, somehow he could be coming across the field on the opposite side. He is going to end up wherever that ball is, man. And he's physical. He's not afraid to come up and hit you too. I mean, he'll lay a helmet on you. And he's, again, when you start talking about the pick with Joe Alt and some of the stuff that Harbaugh's doing, he's bringing the guys, the strong safety linebacker that he got from they brought it from Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about the guys, the type of guys he's bringing in. This is a clear message, man. That, like, we're not talking about like big name guys that's coming in supposed to be all world. We're talking about some guys that's come in and hit you in the mouth. And when you start establishing that mentality, it resonates through the locker room. It resonates through the rest of that team. And you almost, if you don't play that way, you don't fit in, right? And I think what's going to end up happening is in training camp coming up, I think a lot of guys are going to get weeded out. There's going to be some guys here and there that might have played in that 63-point beatdown with the Raiders that gave up 63 points that may not be on the team, may be on a trade block, may not even make the team. I think some guys are going to get weeded out, and that's what you have to do when you come in and try to establish a new mentality in an organization. You got to find out who want to be here. That's number one.
100%. And that's kind of what we've been talking about is just watching the transition from being a finesse team. Because let's be honest, that's what you are. When you can't run the football, when you're not playing physical defense, you're a finesse team. So how does that transition happen? It happens with coaching, but also happens with personnel too, and the type of players, the type of dogs that you're bringing in. So that's one of the things we've been most interested in is just like, what is that transformation going to look like? Because a lot of the players drafted under the previous regime, they get a fresh start, but they weren't asked to do what Jim Harbaugh is going to ask of some of these players now. And I think that's going to be super interesting to see how that happens in the competition that is to come. But you also posted a picture on social media standing with 5th overall pick Joe Alt and captioned it saying, "Thank God I retired, because ain't no way." So first of all, I mean, how big is Joe Alt in person when you're standing next to him? I mean, he definitely made you look a little bit small, I have to say. But also, besides that, though, he has Max Crosby and TJ Watt in the first 3 weeks. Like, that is a murderer's row. How much do you think we're going to kind of learn about him right off the bat?
You just said it. I mean, you're talking about 3 of the best in the business that he's going to have to go and see and figure out. But let me tell you how that happens. So they're in there taking their shoot. They're doing their shoot. I'm actually going to do something in another room for the team. And I popped my head in there. I thought he was standing on something, right? Because his legs were behind the chair.
Yeah.
So, so I'm looking at him like, oh, that's a big dude. But I didn't really pay attention because I just thought he was standing on something that was like at least 6 to 8 inches tall. So I think, oh, okay, cool, enough, whatever. So he walks around the chairs, and I see that he wasn't standing on anything. I said, holy hell. Like, and I'm like, dude, this is unreal. I played against with and against, some big dudes. And he just look, and he just first of all, he's an unbelievable athlete to be that size. And it's funny because, he's come across as a super nice guy off the field, but I played like what Nick Harbaugh do, like guys like off the field, the coolest, laid back. You get them on that field, dude, and they would try to rip you to shreds, right? And he gives me that mauler feeling, like, yeah, I'll laugh right now, but if I get my hands on you between these lines, I'm going to do something bad to you. And that's again, mentality. That is what this team was missing last year. They were missing some leadership, and they was missing somebody establishing a mentality, and that typically comes from the top. So, I mean, look, I say this. Back when we were winning, and what made us the team we were is when you cut on a film, you seeing guys for 60 minutes getting punched in the mouth over and over and over again. So it didn't even really matter how that game played out. We just played such a brand of football that you didn't want to be on the field with us. You was like, man, I gotta see these guys this week. You had that because I had friends on opposite teams. They was like, man, I'm not trying to. I know you're gonna get a sack or two, man. So don't do that damn dance, right? It was we had this, kind of thing around this aura around the league that's who we were, and I'm glad to see that mentality can be established back in the locker room again.
He said, I am going to do that dance and you're going to like it.
yeah. And boo the hell out of it. I'm going to do it again. Right. Exactly. I can't wait to do it again. If not this quarter, the next quarter, but I'm doing it again. And so we just had this level of confidence in the mentality that we wasn't going to be stopped.
Well, you've been someone who has defended Justin Herbert on social media, even if it's been tough and, it's been kind of dysfunction around him. Do you think that we can see an even better version of Justin Herbert this year when hopefully he's finally given a good running game and things can open up for him?
I think outside of the running game, which he definitely has, no shot at my boy Austin Eckler, is just that, him, carrying the ball 20-some times down the field. That's not the player he is. He's never been that. Can he do a lot of things? Catch the ball out the backfield? Is he versatile? Absolutely. But that comes with a level of again, when you establish a mentality, you got somebody that can line up between the tackles and slam the ball downhill 3 to 4 yards at a time and just gash you 5 yards here, 7 yards here, and just gash you over and over again. That wasn't his game. So much pressure is going to be taken off of Justin Herbert that he doesn't have to go out and win the game anymore. I think last year he threw the ball 70+% of the time. It was an insane number. And on top of that, I don't think that people understand when you have that many offensive coordinators and learning that many systems, how hard that is. Like you honestly have no idea how hard that it's like learning a different language every single time. And you got to think fast and think on your feet and pick it up and be able to change strengths and audibles and different looks. It's crazy for him to even have any type of a season on a bad team. They were just a bad team last year. And trust me, I get lit up every time I talk about it, especially when they bring up Tua or some of these other guys. I'm like, God, look, these guys ain't even close, but I can't really hold my ground because of how bad the team played last year. Right. So I'm excited, man, because if you look at Jim Harbaugh's how his offenses are, right, and how he's been doing things. At Michigan, he gashed you over and over again with the run, and any big plays happened down the field because the run was so perfectly executed. That's the mentality that you want. And as a pass rusher, I hated teams that were able to run the ball against us because you didn't know when to pin your ears back. It was the most frustrating thing ever. You're getting gashed 5 yards here, 4 yards here, 6 yards here. Next thing you know, it's a play action right down the field, and you can't get a good pass rush. So that eliminates the Max Crosby, or not eliminate, but it slows down the Max Crosbys and TJ Watts and these great pass rushers.
We have more to get into with Shawne Merriman, including what he thinks of the Chargers' new stable of pass rushers and how all of those guys will help each other, kind of like Shawn Phillips did with him back in the day, and much more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. Yeah, exactly. And you got to play with someone like Shawn Phillips who helped you out. Now the Chargers add Bud Dupree, and now all of a sudden it looks like they have the deepest edge group in the league. So we'll get you out on this. What does that do for you? Like, what did it do for you having Shawn Phillips? What will it do for Joey Bosa having Khalil Mack, but not only Khalil Mack, but also just the stable that they have now? Or not only do you have someone else that's going to give you good opportunities, but you can stay fresh throughout the game.
Yeah, I always thought that Shawne Phillips was really underappreciated, and not
Totally.
only what he can do, but his consistency of play. Right, he was very consistent. He didn't have the big play, like he wasn't going to always take over the game, but you can always count on Shawne Phillips to go out there and just do his thing. Right, he just never really was appreciated on that side of it. I think that having this rotating group is smart for two reasons. Khalil Mack, is getting up there in age, right? You don't want him playing every down anymore. You want to be able to rotate him out. Joey Bosa's been hurt, so you don't want to sit there and gash him out and run his body into a ground when he's getting injured again. When you got a nice rotation of fresh bodies coming in and out the game, and guys putting heat on the quarterback all for 4 quarters, it just puts them in a much, much, much better situation. So it was great and smart that they brought him in. I think the young kid is Tuli, right? He's going to be a big standout this year. Yeah, exactly. I think he'll finish he'll have a double-digit sack year. I just think that what they're doing, like we talk about the nucleus, right, of what we were able to do when we were winning a lot of football games, they have that feel to them right now.
Yeah, it does feel like that. And also just doesn't feel like there's enough sack celebrations. You have one of the most iconic ones in NFL history. I want to see more. Joey Bosa used to do the shrug. Tuli's got the tongue and teeth. Khalil Mack just doesn't really do much, honestly. I want to see it. I want to see more iconic sack celebrations. But everyone, make sure you guys are checking out what Shawne Merriman has going on July 27th in Long Beach. Lights Out 18. I know I'm going to be watching, as I've watched all of them. It's really, really cool. Some absolute bangers on some of those cards, Shawne. So congratulations on all your success, man. I can't wait to see it continue growing. You are an entrepreneur, a Chargers All-Pro, a Chargers legend. Thank you so much for giving us the time. Everyone, make sure you get your tickets at lightsoutxf.com, or you can check it out for free and a bunch of other sports for free on the Lights Out Sports TV app. Shawne Merriman, thank you so much, man. We appreciate you.
Appreciate it, brother. Always. We do it again now before the season started, during the season. Can't wait.
Let's do it.
All right.
Another special thank you to Shawne Merriman. I really do hope we get to catch up with him again before, training camp and the season starts, because he is always awesome when he comes on. And he was great again today. And I wanted to talk a little bit about a couple of the things that he had to say, because I do think it was enlightening, and he definitely kind of came on with the vibe of like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, right? I've been burned before, as we have, right? Buying into the hype surrounding the Chargers. Yep. He said it. He doesn't buy hype like that. And I mean, we're two guys that can definitely understand that, because there's been a lot of teams that have so massively underachieved that, hey, they should have been better, and they weren't. So it gets hard to buy in, even when you have someone like Jim Harbaugh. But David, the longer that interview went on, it kind of felt like he's saying one thing, right? And he's like, I'm not buying into the hype. But it felt like he was kind of buying in a little bit. It definitely seems that he likes what Jim Harbaugh is building in Los Angeles.
Yeah, well, it's just one of those things where you've been burned before, but you really like what you see. I mean, you really, you're paying attention to the little details. You're not sitting here saying, "Hey, I'm just because Jim Harbaugh is the head coach, I am an 100% buy-in. They're going to the playoffs, going to the Super Bowl, all that." He said, "No, I'm paying attention to the players. I'm paying attention to the coaches and their body language and how they're acting." And he said the vibes are high. And he said that's kind of why he feels so kind of confident, and saying, hey, he likes what they're doing, where they're going. He doesn't want to buy in completely, but he kind of wants to buy in completely.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because we get the dynamic of having had him on, I think, a year and 2 months ago, and we were asking him about Brandon Staley, right? Yeah. Because that's what was still happening at that time. And I remember just thinking about how he answered that question about Staley and him trying to fix the defense compared to how he answered the question about Jim Harbaugh, and not just Jim Harbaugh, but the other guys, the coaches that he brought along, right? And having players like a Navarro Bowman on the staff, having a Nick Hardwick on the staff. All of those things, you could just tell that he feels like it's different. It does feel different this time around. And I think that's how all Charger fans have been feeling, is just like, I know we've bought in. I know we've been burnt in the past.
Yeah.
But it does feel different this time. And Shawne Merriman went out of his way to say, hey, I promise you they're going to be better this year. What that looks like coming off of a 5-win season, who knows? And it felt like that's kind of as far as he was willing to go, which I still think is saying something because of the amount of cap gymnastics that Joe Ortiz and this new regime had to deal with. But I also liked what he had to say about the rookies. Not only that, Joe Alt is a giant and he actually thought he was standing on something and didn't realize how big he actually was, coming from a guy that actually played against a bunch of behemoths at the NFL level. But also Tarheeb still, and mostly just the attitude, because that's one of the things we talked about with him, is just like, how does it change from a finesse team to that physical team? And he just basically said, hey, Tarheeb still has a degree in being a dog. Like Joe Alt, he might not seem like a tough guy, right? You look at him and he kind of looks like he's a jovial giant to a certain
gentle
extent.
Giant, right?
Exactly. But there's a dark side, right? There's a switch that gets flipped. And I think I love that. And it definitely seems like he's saying, hey, some of the guys of the Brandon Staley regime might not cut it. He said that without saying it.
Yeah.
And you can tell by the type of players that they're bringing in what this new culture, what this new style of this team is going to be.
Well, because we've heard it in the past, Dan. Like, we've heard coaches say, hey, I'm going to change the culture, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. There's one thing to say it. It's another thing to do it with all of the things and all the moves that you're making. It's the players that you're bringing in. It's the coaches that you're bringing in, like the players that you're drafting. It's not just you saying it. It's you going out there and doing it and being able to get the personnel to fit that message, to be able to turn from a finesse team into a physical team, which I absolutely love. And you have to do it that way. If you want to implement true and real change, you have to make true and real change. And that's what we've seen with the personnel decisions just this quickly under Joe Ortiz and Jim Harbaugh. And so hopefully everyone sees Dr. Jekyll, but gets introduced to Mr. Hyde when they get on the football field.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely excited to see the nasty streak in Joe Alt. And we've talked about Tarheeb still like that the whole time. You know, our favorite part of his game is just willing to do the dirty work,
tackle.
Willing to get in there and make a big tackle somebody much bigger than him. It was nice to hear, you know, Shawne Merriman's perspective, though, because, you know, as a former Terp, he's definitely watching all of those games and has a good idea of what that dude's going to bring to the table. But I do just think it was a great insight from someone who, you know, like I said, doesn't feel like he's fully willing to buy in yet, but does feel like he's buying into the part of what they're trying to achieve and how they're going about doing it, and the type of players they're going to bring in to try to orchestrate what is a really giant change, and also saying not everyone's going to make it. And like, players coach, you can be a players coach until the cows come home, right? But like, sometimes the players need a kick in the ass as well. And you know, and like, I think that's the one thing you get with Jim Harbaugh. Yeah, I mean, Justin Herbert's going to get a little special treatment and get a gold jersey and all those things, but everyone's going to be held up to that standard. Everyone's going to have their shirt tucked in and put the weights back the right way and do everything like that. And I think there is very good reason to be excited about what's happening right now. And I feel like Shawne Merriman coming on and bringing that just validates some of the feelings that I think Chargers fans are a little bit afraid to have right now, because they've been burnt so many times. Yeah, things are new. It might not be this year. It might take some time to build, but things are headed in the right direction, definitely. And Shawne Merriman signing off on that. And I can't wait to see what they have in store for us before that first game against the Raiders in week 1. It should be a blast. But we'll be back with you guys on Friday to make sure that you never miss gigantic episodes like the one we have today, because guest booker extraordinaire David Drogemeyer keeps finding the biggest Chargers guests to bring on the show. Go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel, and listen wherever you get your podcast from, as well as following us on all of our social media so you can see when these shows come out. We post it to all of them. You can find us on Twitter at Locked On LAC, on Instagram at Locked On Chargers, and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page. And it's a great time to be following us on those places, because it is Fan Mail Friday coming up. So you guys can get in on the show by hitting us up on any of those places, or at me at Dan Talk Sports and David Drogemeyer at Drove Talk SD on Twitter, but also calling into the voicemail line at 323-524-7924 and giving it that old school sports radio feel. And we love just hearing from you guys and hearing it in your own words as well. But that was so much fun. Thank you to everyone for checking out today's show. We will continue to keep bringing you the biggest guests of any Chargers podcast or any Chargers content creators out there, and keep bringing you consistent shows, because we're already almost to training camp and up to 5 shows a week again. So thank you guys for being on the ride with us this offseason, one of our favorites ever. We'll be back with you guys on Friday. Until then, take it easy and go Bolts.